Marriage can be a lot of fun. It can also be a lot of fun to make fun of, which we're going to see three Christian comedians share a little bit. Let's watch together.
And then when I met my wife, it was just amazing. It was love at first sight. She was walking across this field and she just looked right at me, which I thought was weird because I thought, you know, I was hidden by the bushes. But love knows no boundaries. She looked right into my binoculars. And so we got married. It was awesome. She changed her name. I was eventually able to find her.
Lori and I figured it out. We figured out what the source of conflict is. We know what causes the two of us to fight. It's me. I remember the first fight I caused. It was right after we got married. And I wanted to go out with the guys, just me and the guys, out like we used to. And she wanted me to stay there with her and cut the cake and throw the bouquet.
Oh, ladies, don't you moan at that. How dare you moan at that? It's not fair. Sometimes my wife gets mad at me for behaving wrong in her dreams. I had a horrible dream last night. You want to hear about it? No, I'm going to tell you anyway. A grizzly bear was chasing me through the woods with his teeth. He was going to eat me. And you did nothing. You just sat there and you didn't do a thing. What was I doing? You were playing poker with a rabbit. That's what you were doing. And that's the thing. You would do something like that. You would play poker with a rabbit while I was being eaten by a bear. Luckily, a giant unicorn came and saved me.
I'm thankful my wife never gets mad at me for what I did or did not do in her dreams. Though marriages are meant to last a lifetime, they can deteriorate over time. I read what someone calls the 7 stages of a head cold for the newly married couple. So the first year of marriage, the husband says, honey, I'm worried about you. You've got a bad cold, the sniffle really. I'm concerned. Take you to the hospital now. We're going to have them do a complete workup, check everything out. And I know their food is terrible, so I've already arranged to have your favorite restaurant deliver food. Second year, listen, sweetheart, I'm concerned. You don't sound good. I called the doctor's office. They're going to see you in just a couple hours, and I'll take you. Until then, why don't you just rest and try to feel better? The third year, maybe you should lie down, dear. I'll make dinner. Do we have any soup in the house? The fourth year, look, dear, don't push yourself too hard. After you finish doing the dishes and put the kids to bed, you really should try to get some rest. By the fifth year, why don't you take a couple of aspirin? By the sixth year, could you please gargle instead of barking like a seal? I'm sleeping on the couch tonight. And then finally, by the seventh year, would you stop sneezing? Are you trying to give me pneumonia? You're going to sleep on the couch tonight. Now, there's some truth to this scenario, but it's exaggerated. At 24 years, Deb and I would be out in the garage if that were the case, and that has not happened yet. But it does remind us marriage is not easy. It takes a lot of work to keep a marriage strong year after year. Now, before I share this, I want to be clear, I'm not an expert on marriage. I am not a fabulous husband. I often fail. However, I can say outside of my relationship with Jesus Christ, Deb is the most important person in this world to me. I also want to say that God does not call everyone to be married. There are some, the Apostle Paul says, who are called to singleness. 1 Corinthians chapter 7 talks about this. And Paul actually says it's better if a person can be single. Because he says the single person can devote themselves fully to the Lord and to His work. The married person needs to take care of their spouse, their children, and try to serve the Lord. So Christians who are single are not second-class citizens. And we need to be sure never to treat them that way. You know, Jesus was single. Paul was single. And I also want to say this to husbands and wives. If you're parenting children right now, guard your marriage. It's very easy for the kids to become the center of your relationship. But someday they're going to move out, hopefully. And you'll be left staring at each other, trying to figure out, what are we going to talk about now? We see the number of divorces and loveless marriages. We wonder, can marriage stay strong and last? This morning I want to give you some practical steps to help you build a stronger marriage that will last through the storms. First, I want to start with guidance for guys. Husbands, love your wives completely. Ephesians 5:25 says, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. That means you need to be willing to sacrifice. I mean, this is the ultimate tough standard, guys. The Lord does not let us off the hook. Love yourself as Christ loved the church. Come on. I mean, Jesus gave everything. That's what we're called to do. Jesus sacrificed everything. If your wife gets only the leftovers of your life, then you're listening to her message that she's not important to you. Where would she say she falls in your priority list? Does she compete with your work, with the television, or your phone, or social media, or computer games? Does she feel left out of your days and your dreams? You know, when you're first dating, odds are you made her a priority, otherwise she probably wouldn't have married you. And so it's important to continue to make her a priority, to let her know how important she is. Put her back at the top of that list, under God alone. And prove you care about her by doing the things you did at first. Do the things that she loves to do. Drew Dick writes, my legs are rubber. My knees are about to buckle. My calves are cramping. In my delirium, I grope for a resting place, but find nothing. I can't feel my toes. I see mirages, chairs, benches. They flicker invitingly, only to vanish as I approach. I teeter on the verge of fainting. Suddenly a voice rings out from the blinding light. Oh, stop acting like such a baby. We've only been shopping for an hour. It's a familiar voice, a cruel voice, the voice of my wife. Her endurance far exceeds mine on days like this. For her, the accessories section of Nordstrom is like paradise. For me, it's somewhere between the Sahara Desert and Dante's seventh circle of hell. Well, I'm thankful. My wife hates to shop, and she loves football. I am a very blessed man. But maybe your wife loves to go shopping. Then go shopping with her. You know, go spend some time. Now, I want to say this, ladies. Most guys hate shopping. I'm going to underline that several times. So only ask him occasionally. Like, let me ask you, do you go to the football games that he goes to, or, you know, there's things he hates? But guys, still, it's important. If this is something she loves, the way you can show her you love her. Hey, I'll go with you. I'll do this with you. I'll never forget one guy, I was at a wedding, it was for Margaret Dish, and Bob Stutz. Tina comes over and says, come on, let's go dance. And he says, you go fishing with me? I'll go dancing with you. Guys, don't do that. By the way, Bob gives me permission. He said I can really say anything embarrassing about him. It's fine. So, but the bottom line is this. There are things your wife loves. Show her you love her by doing them with her. If your work also eats up all your time, all your energy, I want to say this. You may need to start to look at making some changes. You may need a new job, or you may need to talk to your boss about it taking less hours. If your hobbies take up all your time, then you need to look at your priorities. So love your life completely and let her see it through your priorities. And then secondly, use words and physical affection to show her that you love her. You know, guys, when we talk with each other, you know, I don't go up to my friends and be like, hey, I'm so thankful for you. You're such a great guy. I just love you, man. You're amazing. You're thoughtful. You're sensitive. You know, you really are compassionate. At that point, they're going, wait, is there a woman here you're talking about? Remember my best friend from seminary used to call me and he'd say, you know, as soon as I picked up, he'd be like, hey, dirtbag, you know, are you still as ugly as ever? And I'd hear his wife in the background going, Jim, you can't talk to Mark that way. You're going to hurt his feelings. No, he's not. You know, it's a guy thing. But you can't treat your wife the same way. So we need to be careful what we say. I remember once a guy telling me, and his wife was with him, and she actually laughed. But he says, my wife said to me, do these jeans make me look fat? And I said to her, it's not the jeans that make you look fat. Now again, she thought it was funny. It was funny, I'm going to be honest. It was funny. But you never, guys, never. It's not never, ever, ever. You know, that's not, don't do it. So again, we need to be careful with our wives. Build them up. Don't treat them the way you would the guys. Proverbs 16:24 says, gracious words are honeycomb, sweet to the soul and healing to the bones. Women not only like to be loved, they like to be told that they're loved. This proverb says pleasant words are sweet. They're like honey. They're delicious. They're wonderful. It says that these words bring healing. So tell her when she looks good. Compliment her when she does something you appreciate. Express appreciation for those small things that maybe often go unnoticed. Just the things by now you've been married, you expect them, but let her know you do appreciate them. And let her know that she's special. But guys, don't just tell her you love her. Show it by giving her the affection that most women crave. Song of Songs, chapter 1, verse 2, the woman says, "Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is more delightful than wine." Guys, we should use more than words to express our love. Some couples are literally out of touch. When you want to express affection, use touch. And I'm not talking about sex here. I mean a hug, a back rub, holding their hand, cuddling, with no plans for anything else. Just show her you love her by being affectionate. Dare to show her that. Remember back when you were dating? Do you remember the first time like you held hands? Like electric, right? It's like, oh, holding her hand. It's so exciting. That first kiss, wow. You know, eventually, don't be like, okay, sure, I'll hold your hand if you want. You know, that doesn't mean anything. Or don't say to her like, if you need another hug, of course I'll give you one. Like, no, so you go up to her like, honey, let me just give you a hug. I appreciate it. Let me hold your hand. Whatever way she expresses love, show her by doing that with her. So, men, we need to be sure to make our wives a priority and then let them know through our words, through our actions, through our affection that we really love them. And now I want to move to the part that's really important, and that's what wives can do for their husbands. Women, first of all, you can encourage your husband. Ephesians 4:29 says, "Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen." If your friends or coworkers don't know your husband, what do they think about them based on what you've said? You know, have you told them how great he is, how fortunate, or do they think your husband is just this Homer Simpson type of idiot? My wife works with a woman who, Deb says, like, she just never has a positive thing to say about her husband. Deb's never met the husband, doesn't know him, but just all it is constant negativity about him. You know what? Your husband has a deep need to be admired. Now, the truth is, sometimes there's not a lot to admire, but you need to find those things that you can express your appreciation for, the things that you can tell him you're proud of. You know, marriage experts conclude that negative comments are one of the most predictable causes for divorce. You know, some people want to fix their spouse by just pointing out every single little flaw, every little nitpicky thing. They talk to other people about their partner's imperfections. They also publicly criticize them, make fun of them in front of others. This is not what God wants. 1 Corinthians 13, that famous passage says, love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It's not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. See, love protects. Love builds up. Odds are at your wedding you probably had that passage read at some point. But talking about it and doing it are two different things. And so your husband needs to hear those words of encouragement, the positive words from you. You know, if you gave a speech and there were 100 people there and 99 of them said, wow, really appreciate that. Thanks so much for what you shared. And one person said, that was terrible. That was a waste of my time. When you go home, which one do you think? Are you going to think about 99 people and what they said? I can tell you which one I'd think about. Your husband takes those negative things often to heart, so give him positive feedback also. You know, my self-confidence is very much affected by the way Deb sees me. Ephesians 4:29 says we're to build up our mate with our words. Now, a good way to do that is constantly compliment them. Look for ways you can actively express admiration for your husband. You know, all of us love to get compliments, but in this case, it's better to give than to receive. Ladies, most of you realize under your husband's often tough, macho facade is really a fragile male ego. It's not something we like to talk about. No, we're good, we're tough. You know, hey, I'm fine. Often guys aren't fine. Rate of suicide among men, you know, so high because guys pretend it's all okay when it isn't. So build him up. Be his biggest fan. Catch him doing something good and thank him for it. The second thing is this, and this is an awkward one to be honest for me to talk about. Love your husband with your body. The erotic part of marriage is important. How do I know? The Bible says so in 1 Corinthians 7. The Apostle Paul says this, since sexual immorality is occurring, each man should have sexual relations with his own wife and each one with her husband. The husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife and likewise the wife to her husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body but yields it to her husband. And in the same way, the husband does not have authority over his own body but yields it to his wife. Do not deprive each other except perhaps by mutual consent and for a time, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer. Then come together again so Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. The Bible is clearly talking here about sex. It's awkward for us to speak on, but it's in God's Word. And in the book, His Need, Her Needs, which is something I actually always share with premarital counseling, the author did a survey of men and women and found the top 5 things women wanted out of their husband and the top 5 things men wanted from their wives. And let me be perfectly honest, I always say this to the women, the men's list is really shallow. Like someone to do sports and other hobbies with. Women then want like deep, conversation or something, But the first thing women want, number 1 thing on women's list, what they want from their husband, affection. Holding the hand, hugs, the love. Number 1 thing men want, anyone want to guess? Yep, sex. That's the number 1 thing they want. The Apostle Paul here is clear that this is an important thing. So wives, one of the ways you can show your husband you love him is by being physically available. God created sex. It was His idea. He didn't have to make it the way it is. When I'm doing premarital counseling, I often tell couples that before marriage, God wants you to keep your hands off each other. But after you're married, He's pleased when you love one another. Well, sex between a husband and wife is not dirty. It's a gift from God. And you know what? That intimate relationship helps to protect the marriage. If you are so in love, again, the affection, it's all these pieces coming together, but it helps to protect. Because what Paul says here in this passage is this will help to save your marriage and protect it. I remember years ago, probably 15 years ago, I think I've shared this before, but I knew a couple, they were Christians, did not go to our church, thankfully. And the wife was one of these who just ran her husband down all the time. Just hardly had a good thing to say about him. And she would say in front of his family, because guy was really overweight. I'm kind of overweight, like he was really overweight. And she'd say, he's disgusting. I would never touch him. She said, it's been 6 years since I've had any kind of physical relationship with him. And she'd say this to his family. And she just kept talking about, I won't touch him. And, a couple of years later, he tells her, I've been having an affair for the past year and I'm leaving you. And she was devastated. She couldn't believe, how could this happen? I wasn't shocked. There was none of the first thing, the affirmation. All she did is ran him down. And now, does that mean that he did right? Absolutely not. Does it excuse it? Yeah, he did what everyone would do. No, it doesn't make it okay. But does that make what she did okay? No. So we need to be available to one another. That's one of the keys here. If you read, Paul's not saying, women, you just got to be his toy. Paul's saying, women, you belong to him, and you yield is the word. You give of yourself, and men are to yield to their wives. That each of you to one another. And I want to be clear here that we need to be realistic about this. Guys, if you expect your wife to live up to some fantasy that you've watched on television, forget it. TV and movies and even worse, pornography, all these create these images of what it's to be like. And they're not reality. Sexuality that appears in our pop culture is far cry from the real world, where people work all day and are tired, where kids sleep across the hallway, where aging bodies no longer respond as they once did, and where people wake up with bad breath. You ever love movies? I love watching movies, and again and again and again you see this. The couple wakes up in the morning, it's a PG movie, they're covered, there's nothing dirty, but they wake up and they roll over towards each other, and he says, hi, how are you? And I can tell you right now, Debbie goes, awful, like, go brush your teeth. And then they lean over and they kiss. Like Deb, for herself, even like, I haven't brushed, I'm not kissing you. It's not reality. So don't try to make that into what reality is. But God created this kind of intimacy. It's a powerful connection that should be respected. Wives, love your husbands with your words and also with all that you have. Now, if husbands will make their wives a priority and will give them their love and affection, if wives will compliment and build up their husbands and share their bodies with them, it can make a stronger marriage. But it won't build a marriage that cannot be broken. How do you do that? Well, by committing yourself to the God who wants to be the glue that can hold any marriage together. Malachi chapter 2, verse 13 says this, "You flood the Lord's altar with tears. You weep and wail because he no longer looks with favor on your offerings or accepts them with pleasure from your hands. You ask why? It's because the Lord is the witness between you and the wife of your youth. You've been unfaithful to her, but she is your partner, the wife of your marriage covenant. Has not the one God made you? You belong to him in body and spirit. And what does the one God seek? Godly offspring. So be on your guard and do not be unfaithful to the wife of your youth. The man who hates and divorces his wife, says the Lord, the God Almighty, the God of Israel, does violence to the one he should protect, says the Lord Almighty. So be on your guard and do not be unfaithful." 3 times the passage says, don't be unfaithful. When you got married, you made a promise. It probably went something like this: for richer, for poor, for better, for worse, in sickness and in health, till what? Death do us part. It wasn't until, like, you no longer meet my needs, you no longer look the way you did when I married you. If that were the case, Deb would have gotten rid of me years ago. There was a point at which we looked like we went together as a couple, just so you know. There was a time for that. But the reality is this: you made a promise. You didn't say like, hey, just kind of like as long as we fulfill each other. No, you made a covenant. And you made a covenant, this passage says, before God. It doesn't matter if a pastor did it or not. Justice of the peace did it. It still was done before God. He was a witness to what you said. Verse 14 says, he witnessed the covenant, and before God you then have a solemn obligation to fulfill your promise to your mate. So I want to encourage you to remove the word divorce from your vocabulary. In the Bible, there are 2 reasons for divorce. One, your partner's unfaithful. That doesn't mean you have to divorce them. Often, if they repent, God is able to restore marriages. But that is certainly an option. And the other is if your unbelieving spouse abandons you. So if that's not the case, and just like, he doesn't meet my needs, she doesn't give me any affirmation. Well, you know what? I'm sorry, God doesn't say if they don't meet your needs or you don't get affirmation, you get to ditch them. Let me be clear, God hates divorce. He hates the damage that it does to people. I've said it before, but divorce is like 2 pieces of paper that are glued together. You know, 10 years later, if you say, I think we should separate those pieces of paper, what's going to happen? They're going to tear apart and be destroyed. God hates divorce because he hates what it does to people. And the good news is this: he offers forgiveness. If you're here today and you're divorced, it's not the unforgivable sin. He still loves you. If you've repented and turned back to him, he cares about you. But if you're married, divorce is not God's plan for your marriage. If you consider divorce to be out of the question, you're more likely to work hard at continuing to keep the marriage strong. Studies consistently show people who live together before marriage have a significantly higher rate of divorce. That shocks a lot of people. No, you got to live together. You got to first try out the car, test drive it, right? And you'll know if you like it or not. And what studies have shown, what the authors believe, and this is multiple studies, is that something that began with impermanence. You moved in together, no one, hey, at any point, I don't like you, you don't like me, boom, I'm gone. And at some point you became married, but you never really got the idea that we switched gears. Whereas if you never lived together, you walk into it with more of a mindset of, hey, I'm stuck with her the rest of my life. She's stuck with me the rest of her life. And that's the kind of mindset we really do need to have, through better, through worse. Deb and I have a good marriage. I love her now more than I've ever loved her. But we have had tough times. And there have been times when I've wondered, why did I say I do? And there have been many times when she has wondered, why did I say yes to Mark? But I wouldn't trade her for anything. But it's difficult, and we've had to continue to just work and work and work. Rodney Dangerfield once said, my wife and I were happy for 20 years, and then we met. There have been patches in our marriage that have been tough, and I thank God for giving me a wife who's committed to our marriage and to me. It'd be easy for her to go, Mark is not meeting my needs. He's not what I thought he was. A strong marriage is not built on compatibility. It's built on a commitment to a lasting relationship through the power of God's help. Your marriage partner is going to change physically. They're going to change emotionally. Their personality is going to change. You're going to go, well, that's not what you were like when we got married. Well, people change. You're going to have arguments. You're going to have sickness. You're going to deal with laziness and financial crises, intrusive in-laws, bad and even sinful habits, and much more. So you better be committed to a permanent relationship. Now, in saying all this, I want to be clear, marriage is wonderful. I would not trade my wife for anything. I was saying to David a couple of days ago, my teenage son, talking about girls. I was doing really talking. I guess teenage boys, they don't, Dad gets nothing. I mean, it's, they work for the CIA and they're sharing nothing with, with the Russian interrogator. But I was saying how thankful I am because I don't have to wonder, does she love me? I kind of like her. Does she like me? It's so exciting. And then you find out, she's psycho. What am I doing? Or she finds out, no, I'm a nut, and she dumps me. I love being married. So in saying all this, marriage is wonderful, but it can be difficult. But it's saying that if you're looking for a spouse who's going to meet all your needs, who's going to fulfill you, who's going to fill the void in your heart, you are going to never find such a person. Because only God can do that for you. And that's why you have to turn to Him. He needs to be in the top place. Your spouse should be number 2. Your kids right under that. But God always needs to be the most important thing. Because the more you love God, the better you're going to love your spouse. I've shared it before. Premarital counseling, I always tell the couple, here's you, here's your spouse, and God's up here. And if you are far from God, you're far from one another. The closer you get to God, the closer you'll be. Why? Because the things of God will fill your heart. What does the Bible say is the fruit of the Spirit? Love. Will that help your marriage? Yes. Joy. If you're a happy, joyful person or a really sad, negative person, which do you think is going to make for a better marriage? Peace. If you're at peace, are you going to be a better spouse? Absolutely. Patience. Yeah, you're going to need that in marriage. So as you grow to be more like Christ, your marriage will grow stronger. Husbands and wives need to understand, instead of attempting to alter one another, we need to understand each other. It's your job to love your mate. It's God's job to change them. That is not your job. Some of you have gone into, sometimes even in premarital counseling, I'll talk to, especially, I'll be honest, women tend to be more of this, but, maybe we're talking one-on-one, like, what about this thing with him? That concerns me. Oh, don't worry, we get married, I'll change him. Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, just go with that. Yeah, go with that. That's all. Ladies, men, 90% of the time, you're not going to change them. And so you need to let God do the changing and let Him do the work. And I want to say this, success in marriage does not depend on finding the right person, but on you becoming the right person. You need to focus on yourself. We're always focused on the other one. They need to do this for me. Why don't they do that? Here's what Philippians 2:4 says. Each of you should look not only to your own needs, but also to the needs of others. See, if you walk away from this sermon going like, man, I can't wait to talk to my husband. Things are going to change. Oh, I can't wait to give it to my wife. She's going to start to... Well, friends, then you've missed the whole point. It begins with you and who you are. And if your spouse doesn't seem to want to work on your marriage, you need to pray. You need to ask God to change their heart. And you need to allow God to make you more loving, more considerate. I want to challenge you. Ask your spouse, what can I do to build you up? What are the things I did that attracted you to me, other than how I looked against, I had hair. Like, I wish I still had hair. That's not going to happen unless I get a rug, and my wife doesn't necessarily want a rug. So it is what it is, okay? But what were the things I did that attracted you to me? And that's what you need to ask your spouse. What are the things I can do to show you I love you, to show you I care? I want to close by reading a letter that appeared in Ann Lander's column. It said, Dear Ann Landers, I'm going to tell you about a love story that I witness every time I go to the nursing home to see my husband who has Alzheimer's disease. Unfortunately, I know firsthand the terrible illness, how it affects the family. But I'd like the world to know what love really is. She says, I see a man who spent the last 8 years caring for his wife. She has Alzheimer's. They've been married for over 50 years. He feeds her every bite of food she eats. He bathes her and dresses her day in and day out. They have no other family. She lost a baby at childbirth, and they never had children. She says, I cannot describe the tenderness and love that man shows for his wife. She's unable to recognize anyone, including him. I observed him when I parked my car beside his the other day. He patted down what little hair he had, straightened his threadbare collar, and looked in the mirror for one final check before going in to see his wife. It was as if he were courting her. They've been partners all these years, yet he carefully groomed himself before he called in his wife, who wouldn't even know him. This is an example of the love and commitment the world needs today. Marriage is not always easy, but that man's made a commitment, for better, for worse, in sickness and in health. Friends, my prayer is that we'll have that kind of commitment. If you're married, ask yourself, do you have a sacrificial love for your spouse? Are you committed to doing the hard things that will strengthen your marriage? And are you willing to put God first and seek His help to make you the kind of person that your partner needs to lift them up and encourage them? Let's pray. Lord, I lift up the married couples in this room. Father, you know how difficult marriage can be. As two different people, two flawed people, two sinful people try to meld and merge their lives. Lord, you know so often it leads to trouble. And yet your desire is that we would love each other. And so I pray for the marriages here that you would strengthen them. I pray for the ones that right now are ready to shatter apart. Maybe even no one knows about it, but Lord, they know. I pray that you'll bring hope to them. I ask, Lord, that you'll bring healing to the brokenness. And pray, Father, that each of the partners will be willing to do what they can to begin to move forward with healing and hope. Father, I pray for those who have normal marriages or even good marriages, that you'll make them better, that you'll make them stronger, that you'll prepare them for the difficulties that come in life, the stress that can pull people apart. Lord, I ask you to help us to love our mates, even as you love them. Father, sacrificially, not because of what they can do for us, but because they're yours and because they're ours. Father, I thank you for the gift of marriage. I pray your blessing on every married person. I pray for those who are single here today, that they would know that you love them equally. Lord, that you are here for them too. And I pray for our younger people who are maybe dating, maybe not even at that point. Lord, that they would look for a spouse who would love you, who would model Christ, and who would be the kind of person that they need, not just for the next few years, but for the rest of their lives. And Lord, we ask and pray all this in Christ's name. Amen. Please stand.